Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing a Explore deck upgrade. Explore Anthologies is upon us. We got a bunch of new cards injected to the format. So what we're going to look at is how these new cards slot into existing decks and how you can upgrade to kind of mirror closer to the Pioneer port. This particular video is going to be looking at the red-black mid-range deck. Probably the most popular deck on the best of 3 ladder for Explore, kind of the Chandra of the format. And we got the powerhouse, the card that I was looking for most out of this anthology. It is Kalitas, Traitor of Ghet. 4 mana, 3/4 lifelink. Mono red is shivering in its pants already. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and put a 2/2 zombie onto the battlefield. So it's got lifelink, it's got graveyard hate, it makes tokens, and you could sacrifice your vampires or zombies, and then you could put 2 counters on it. And this card could just run away with games on its own. So really this is going to be the top end. It's going to be replacing Sorin on a lot of these lists. And Rakdos' biggest kind of weakness was against the more aggressively slanted decks. It did have trouble in terms of gaining life. Burn, stuff like that, I used to always have a problem with playing. So going to preface, we'll go look at the deck. There is many ways to build this deck. Even in the Pioneer versions, I looked at some ports. There's a lot of different versions. There's versions that are on Kroxa. There's versions that we'll see that are on Goblin Dark Dweller. There's the Invoke Despair versions. There's the ones that are still playing some number of Sorins throughout the 75. So the deck is very much adaptable in terms of what you're running into. So this is a version that I've seen kind of the most popular, at least that I can tell. I'm building kind of towards this in paper as well, but we'll jump into it. So this is kind of the configuration. So notably, the card we're missing from the Pioneer version right now is Dreadbore. So Dreadbore is being replaced right now with a Bloodchief's Thirst and 2 Heartless Acts. Bloodchief's Thirst is just an option to hit Planeswalkers. The biggest kind of difficulty with this deck right now is you don't have a lot of clear ways to deal with Planeswalkers that resolve outside of combat damage. So like a Teferi resolving sometimes could just be good game because you're not able to interact with it, at least main board with it on the stack. The deck itself, what we're going to be doing is Henrika is the copies of Kalitas right now, but your Kalitas will slot in right there. This version here is on 25th land, where a lot of the versions I saw on Arena Explorer were 24 lands. 25th land is Shatterskull Smashing, so think of it as a spell or a land in this particular deck. Another card we're missing is Urborg to fix our mana. So right now we're on 2 Castle Locthwains, where typically it'll play 1 Castle, 1 Urborg. The core of the deck, this version is not on a Kroxa, and it's playing a copy of Unlicensed Hearths in the main. Its recursive element is Tenacious Underdog over the Kroxa. So less in terms of the graveyard. The way I kind of look at it, and I've kind of been falling back on Kroxa in a lot of these decks, is there's such contention for the graveyard. There's Greasefang that just kind of combo kills you. So Kroxa's always kind of draw was against like the blue-white control decks, where you could just keep bringing it back. But now they have Portable Hole, they have March of the Otherworldly, they have the Wandering Emperor, they have Farewell. That's just main board. Then they bring in all the sideboard hate in terms of your graveyard. So I didn't want something to be too reliant on the graveyard. You know, we have some synergies with the graveyard, but it's not be-all, end-all. Cut the Ribbons notably deals 4 damage, so this will deal with opponents' Kalitas. It'll deal with like Angels, like Righteous Valkyrie, stuff like that. Anything, even like Torbrand. And then post-board, like in this Aftermath side, you can cast this from your graveyard. It's a good mana sink for late game that you can just fireball your opponent. So like I said, we're on the Bloodchief's Thirst Heartless Act kind of value train. You still have your Harvesters. Still have your Fables, Bonecrushers, Trespassers, 2 Chandras. Then you have Goblin Dark Dweller here. It's kind of your topping card. Given this is one of those cards, I'm going to have to see how it plays out. So we have value with flashing back spells from our graveyard for free. But on the flip side, do we want to look at something like Glorybringer that comes down with haste? It's damage on its own. It plays really well. So this is something that can be flexible in terms of what we're playing as our top end. A lot of the lists are going with this, so I want to give it a shot to see at first. In terms of the sideboard itself, so sideboard's really going to be meta dependent. I took a look at the versions that are being played in Pioneer, and you have like Weathered Runestone, but we don't have the Lotus Field combo. We'll also see Oh, I forget. One sec. I have it in here. Lifebane Zombie. Lifebane Zombie is a card that deals with the mono green matchup. I have my binder right beside me, so I have all the cards in there. But really what we're looking at is Duresses for the control matchup. We don't have Rending Volley, so I'm playing a Fry. Good against the white decks, good against the mono blue decks. It's also uncounterable. And then good against blue-white control. Clean answer to Teferi, hopefully. Then we have some more Unlicensed Hearts for the graveyard decks. Because we don't have Dreadbore, I'm playing the Bedevil. And then we have so I'm going to kind of feature the creature decks and then the cards, and then I'll mention the control cards. So we have Bedevil, good against, just if you need another piece of removal for the creature decks, can also hit Anvil decks, and then also hit a Planeswalker. Anger of the Gods, it's a little, I was thinking Sweltering Suns, I was thinking Languish, but I think somewhere in this deck I want a sweeper. Against the very aggressive decks, you're just going to play bigger. You can just kind of sequence your draws. A sweeper on 3 can be handy at times. Also, if we see stuff like Phoenix or stuff like that, we might want it. This could be better as Sweltering Suns, so we get our stuff back from the graveyard. We don't exile our things. A couple of these decks on Arena for Explorer had a Meathook Massacre, but my concern is Meathook Massacre. So if we look at, say, a game against Mono Red, right? They go 1-drop, Burning Tree Emissary. So say they do Kumano, Burning Tree Emissary, Robber the Rich, and then turn 3 they play Annex. Your Meathook's not going to deal with that board. Anger the Gods will. So something to kind of keep in mind with that. I have another copy of Kolgan's Command. This is just, I want to have some answers to artifacts. There's a lot of food decks that go around on the format. So this is a way to kind of hit their cat, hit their oven, discard, rebuy our stuff in the grindier matchups. Even against the mirror, I wouldn't mind having a card like this in the deck. And then Control, I wanted to try out. So Control has Farewell. They're going to have a lot of removal that's exile based. My thought is here, you bring in your Go Blanks, you bring in your Angrath, that can kind of eat at their hand. You bring in your Obnixis, which even gets around counters if you could sacrifice creatures, so there's some utility there. And then there's Invoke Despair, which is a nice clean answer to both the mirror. You hit their Chandra, you hit their creature, kind of go from there. That is also good against Blue-Eye Control, hit their Teferi, draw 2 cards maybe. So some value here. The one thing when I'm looking at this deck though is I might have too many post-board items for the control matchup, and given the prevalence, I might do Hidasuku. So I think maybe we do this. So for the food matchup, this card's very good. Deals with their ovens, deal with their little things. Also eats out their graveyard. So this might be something we try out instead of the Angrath. I like Obnixis because it comes down earlier, and it's just a way to kind of grind your opponent out that way. Also, I just really like this card and I want to play it, so I'm always kind of biased towards that. But like I said, there's so many ways to build this sideboard. It's very adaptable. We can go hard control, we could go more aggressive, we could just bring in more removal. It's really predicated on what the meta looks like. Even stuff like Fry, Noxious Grasp. Do we need all these copies of your removal spells? How much graveyard hate do we need? All these things are kind of reasonable considerations as we're playing through the deck. But that's probably where I'm going to start for the time being. But let me know what you think. Especially with this deck, there's so much subjectivity in terms of how you want to configure your deck. But let me know. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. And if we'll do these for a couple of videos. I did mono blue. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do mono green. I'm going to do the heroic deck. If there's any other decks you'd like to see, let me know. But we'll come out with a gameplay video later in the week. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.